All right, everybody. I want you all to welcome a very special guest. Finally joining us on the show this week. Everybody welcome Wells Thompson.
Hello.
Welcome, Wells.
Hey, Wells. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
We're not going to give you too much shit about it being your first time. We already did that off air, so it's not valuable for anybody anymore.
You did prove us wrong. We had a bet going as whether you were a figment of Dalton's imagination or not.
It was just going to be Dalton and a blonde.
We just paid. Oh man, I wish you guys planned that ahead of time. Dalton showing up. So our fans and viewers, if you were there for the Dalton Shannon interviews, this is Wells Thompson, the co-writer of MechaTon as well. But Wells, we got to do the annoying thing of putting you through the gauntlet and hearing your origin story in comics. Most importantly, like how you got to MechaTon, but how did it come about where you wanted to write a comic, how that all came about for you?
Absolutely. So this comic is very tied into that because I didn't get into comics until I met Dalton in college.
Okay.
We met in writing workshops and sort of quickly caught on that we were both really good at it, and also that we complemented each other really well. If you've spent any time talking to Dalton, he's great at banter. He loves to crack a joke. He's incredibly good with building up characters and making them super likable. And I've always been very plot oriented, very sort of approached storytelling from a really literary style. So as he likes to say, I keep the wheels on the wagon. He makes it go as fast as possible. So we've always kind of complemented each other really well. The way we got started with it is that Dalton has always wanted to do comics. Whereas I always wanted to do novels and movies and such. And he, as being that's what he always wanted to do, he was constantly pumping out scripts. I would help him kind of edit them and sort of got a feel for it myself. He had this graphic novel that he didn't know what to do with. And on a whim, I was just like, I really like the idea. Do you mind if I take a crack at it? And I rewrote it sort of in my own style, and we workshopped it back and forth until it was something we were both really happy with. And we realized that was a really fun and rewarding way to write stories, and that we had a lot of chemistry together. And then, shortly after that, we started doing short comics, which we eventually kind of compiled into an anthology, Descent into Dread. That was our first published work. And then after that, we decided to do an ongoing series, which was MechaTon. So, I don't have the typical, started reading comics as a kid. My first ever comic that I remember reading, and I'm sure I picked up, at some point, I picked up a Punisher comic or something, just like a quick floppy, and just didn't think anything of it. But my first big comic that I remember reading is Watchmen, which is a really strange one to start with.
Yeah.
In terms of just what it's about is the superhero in comic book industry, and I didn't know anything about that.
But that might have paved your way to be the writer you are now, because you said Dalton's side, he gets it going as fast as possible, and you're more plot oriented, right? So.
Yeah, and I think over time we've definitely influenced each other. I've gotten a lot better at banter and characters and dialogue. He's gotten a lot better at plotting. Which is sort of the benefit of collaboration. You really learn to bring out the best in each other, and and can take that moving forward into your own projects. But my influences have always been Kurt Vonnegut and F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Jennifer Egan, like contemporary American titans of literature, not necessarily Grant Morrison, Brian Lee O'Malley, which are people I love now, but have never been they weren't the people who made me want to do this, if that makes sense.
If I can jump in, because I've had this debate going on at the comic shop for a while, which is you want to get your friend into comics, what's the book to give them? And then, everybody always spouts out the obvious. They spout out Watchmen, they spout out Dark Knight Returns, and oh my God,
Kingdom Come.
Yeah. And I always say those are three great books, but I would never hand those to a first timer. because I think Watchmen requires you to have knowledge of comics. I think Kingdom Come requires you to have knowledge of the DC universe.
For
and
sure.
I think that Dark Knight Returns is a little bit easier, but it's still you have to know Batman.
Yeah, you do need a little bit of background knowledge on Batman, which most people have sort of a background radiation on, but they're not going to get like the nuances of what that story is doing.
Yeah, right.
And
which
Watchmen
is why I
is
think that's the top of the three. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Watchmen being your first kind of like, how did
Watchmen
that affect the rest of your comics reading?
Yeah, Watchmen isn't a comic that I would hand to convince people to read more comics. Watchmen is just a great book.
Yeah.
Period.
Sure. Yeah.
If you, to me, if you want to get people into comics, anything Brian Lee O'Malley, Scott Pilgrim series, Seconds. Seconds is actually probably better because it's a self-contained book and it is brilliant in its own right, and it really could only be done in comics.
Yep.
I in terms of like serialized floppy stuff, man,
that is tough. I mean,
I really like I tend to go for the indie stuff, so I almost never think of like superhero stuff to recommend. What I think is like the mini lives of Layla Starr, and if you know they have really weird specific tastes, Coffin Bound is a great one to introduce people to.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to really know the person you're recommending it to, though.
Right.
But yeah, but if you wanted to like do something really traditional, Chip Zdarsky, Daredevil, I would say is a great one as like an introduction to what comics do. That's just a really solid example of like a good, maxi series.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
My answer varies depending on the person. Like,
my sister, really is. Yeah,
my sister and I've been trying to get her to read Saga for years because I think she would love it.
Saga's so good.
Yeah.
And then, but like if you're into superheroes, I say Secret War, like the original Secret Wars, because it's a very easy, condensed superhero story with just a lot of fighting.
For sure.
But I guess
I think thinking on it, I think I would go for All-Star Superman as at least one of like the easy go-tos.
That's a good one, yeah.
If you want, especially if you want like people into superhero comics and what they can do beyond just like this is a fun punch up. Like that book has so much heart and so much I don't even like I don't remember that book at all for like the action scenes or the weird set pieces.
Right.
I remember it for like Lois and Clark kissing on the moon. Like it just has some really impactful moments that the medium sells really well. Plus Frank Quitely's art is so good.
It is really good. Yeah. That's really what got me into comics was that art. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, because my original question was kind of like, it didn't really deter you from reading comics though. Like you read this thing and you still got into it. You just didn't get into like the mainstream.
I and to this day, I'm still very much, I'm more interested in what indie is doing. There are superheroes comics that are ongoing that I do pay attention to, like the Hot Girl miniseries that came out. Just like every other kid, the Batman in the Animated Series, JLU, that was sort of my bread and butter introduction to superheroes. So Hot Girl has always been like my low-key favorite of that group. I've always wanted to read a comic with her, and the fact that she hasn't had her own until now is insane to me.
Yeah, that's wild.
So yeah, as soon as that was announced, I was like, I'm on board for this. I really, really want to read this. The Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy books are great. There's a bunch of really, really great books being put out right now. Heard great things about Detective Comics, Ram V's Detective Comics, but I have not had a chance to pick it up yet.
I'm a big fan of Ram V, but a lot of his stuff's very heavy. It's like not your typical.
It is. It's different, but again, that's my like. I love.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I first read. What did I first read from Ram V? It was either These Savage Shores or Layla Starr, but either way, it was just, you read that and you're hooked on his style and his eye for detail and just the very different perspective that he has.
Yeah, his Swamp Thing was pretty phenomenal that he was working on. All right, Wells, we'll get back to what you've been doing with MechaTon.
Sure.
And I want to say that just to focus on that book, Chris and I talk about this quite a bit, especially with the Big Two and other comics, bringing fun back into reading, because like, it's like you said, it's a floppy. It's hard to just get somebody into like just a single issue of anything. But I would say with what you did with this first 5 issues of MechaTon is each issue itself it reminded me of like a Saturday morning cartoon style kaiju story. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all, but I think every issue is fun in itself.
The inspiration for this was very much like getting home from school and turning on Toonami and just like being barraged with, you know, old anime and like weird niche cartoons. I think there's definitely an influence of like, you know, what's the next inexplicable, exciting thing that we're going to get to see. You know, I didn't want to go as far as like the strict episodic nature of something like Dragon Ball, where you have on the last episode of Dragon Ball Z, like you know, everything that comes with that. But yeah, that as you said, kind of Saturday morning cartoon feel. This was very much an ode to the sort of media that we grew up with, whether it's like Gurren Lagann or something not modern, but like Ben 10, something that was kind of concurrent with when I was growing up. It's just we wanted to appeal to that part of you that's still excited for the absurd, and we wanted to make something that you know, a 5-year-old could read and be excited about, or a 45-year-old could read and feel nostalgic and excited about, but still have that like sense of almost childlike wonder about like, oh, this is so cool, what's gonna happen.
Right.
You got me when you transformed a hot dog cart.
Yeah, that was sort of the, I'm like, what's the stupidest thing we can transform? I want to hit him. I want to hit him where it hurts, right out the gate. And hot dog cart was what I landed on, and I'm extremely proud of that.
I was talking to Chris about the earlier the issue where you transform the cop car. And he's like, "Oh, what kind of weapons can I find?" And he just pulls out machine guns. Like, no, the car just had machine guns.
It's like, yeah, that was just part of it.
No, that's not a new weapon. Like the machine guns were on the car.
Yeah, that was sort of the joke with that one is you have to, you know, come up with improvised weaponry like a cannon, an umbrella shield for the hot dog cart. And the police officers is just like. Already, or the police car is way decked out. Like you don't need to dig at all for it.
It's just there. Yeah, no. I do like what you did with every issue, and I'm gonna get to so there is an overarching plot. I mean, you kind of get that. Yeah. And we don't need to spoil too much, I guess. I mean, this is for the volume 1 coming out, but I would say that you kind of address it wrapping up in the 5th issue, right? We get to see more of that. Or like the reason for the MechaTon being on Earth and all this stuff happening. And there's obviously a bigger story there, right? So that's kind of flushed out already.
We get little hints of kind of the bigger driving force of the plot at the very beginning of issue 1. That's why it starts off very like, why are we doing Star Wars? Like it starts off very cosmic and like, and this space battle is going on, and then kind of reframes to being you know, this weird little suburban great power, great responsibility kind of story. And the plot slowly drifts back toward that overarching like big bad villain and cosmic repercussions and stuff like that. But we wanted to start it off small to really get to know the characters and to, you know, tell a story that people can relate to kind of in their own communities before we jump onto, and now it's cosmic scale and planets are in the balance and things are getting really ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I would say by the end of the 5th issue, like you said, the main characters are introduced. You have like this connection with them, kind of who the rotating cast really is going to be, and like, you know, the police force being involved, that banter between that group and the main group and stuff like that. So I guess let's talk about the Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter's running right now, right? And this would be the collected volume 1 of all 5 issues, correct? So talk about that.
108, completed pages. and the cover gallery for the standard issue. So everything is already done. We're ready to print as soon as we get our funding for it.
Nice. And is there any additional stuff that we hadn't seen with the original issues that's going to be part of the graphic novel at all, or just?
So yeah, we do have a kind of deluxe edition if you're a fan of the series, or if you just really want to consume all that like you can get of the series, you're really into it. We've got a deluxe edition that has back matter for days. Original character sketches, original sample pages from different artists that stepped away from the project. We've got a script that of like a very different version of MechaTon as like an interesting what if. There's page breakdowns. There's all sorts of stuff that really kind of lets you sink your teeth into what we're doing.
And the one thing you didn't mention there, which I'm a sucker for, is we do have a deluxe edition foil cover. Everybody.
Absolutely.
So
if you like display covers, it's there for you. And it's from Comics Wellspring is the printer that we use, and the way they do foil covers is so gorgeous. Plus that comes with heavier paper, glossier paper, so it really makes the colors pop. If you love cool display stuff, definitely take a look at that one.
And because it's shiny, that means it's worth more, everybody. So
that's true.
Yeah, speculators going to speculate.
It also doesn't chip off or anything like that. It's really we went to like very painstaking links to make sure that we got like the best paper quality and make sure that the experience was like solid from beginning to end.
Yeah, I think I went on about this with Dalton, but I'm going to bring you into my madness too. I think my favorite thing you guys have done is this print right here from Jakuna.
I love that one.
It's so good, man.
Serge is someone I would love to work more with. We managed to get him on a story on Descent into Dread, which is just gorgeous. The way he went above and beyond our expectations for it. But yeah, we already had that connection. We asked him to make something for MechaTon, and we sort of kicked ourselves for not using it as a cover because it is absolutely gorgeous. But maybe one day we'll circle back around to it. That's available as a 11x16 print as well as a 5x7 metal print.
Very cool.
Limited number of those. So yeah, if you want something really cool that won't break or bend,
that's the one.
Yep.
You could chuck it across the room. You'll be okay.
Absolutely.
You'll be okay. I don't know if the walls will be, but so right now you're at almost 2,200 out of 3,000. A little over 2 weeks to go. Probably about 2 weeks as we're talking now with this episode airs. But I would say, I think it's a great. I think you're hitting all the needs of like, okay, there's just a digital only version. We have just people missed out on the early birds already. If you missed out on the early birds, what the hell were you doing? They
hadn't heard this interview yet, Mike.
Yeah, that's true. They haven't. Yeah, we're in the future now. So,
we do our best to try and reward repeat backers and people who are just really like into the, who follow us from project to project. So we always have 20% off at the beginning of the campaign. So you might have missed it this campaign. Next campaign, you can always, you can keep updated and snag it.
And I'll say another interesting thing you have on here is the annotated digital scripts of 1 through 5. I think that's really cool, especially for any aspiring writers. Can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. Yeah, we wanted to have something available for digital backers that was a little bit more expansive than just like, because in terms of digital add-ons, there's not a ton that we can do. We can, but we have these scripts available. And for people who are interested, we figured it would be nice to go in and sort of, add in sort of as comments onto the script, like our decision-making process, the history of how we came to this scene or what, or just how the page evolved that's different from the script, or how impressed we were with the art. Just, it's not like every single line has a comment on it, but it's basically like a small director's commentary with me and Dalton on the script, and it's a good companion piece for the book itself. Whether you're just a casual fan or especially, I think if you're interested in writing comics and you want to see how like the scripts break down and the difference between what's on the page and how it was originally kind of formatted.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really cool idea, because we always try to talk about that a little bit here, as well as just the comics and the media being put out, but the process and how that gets done. Yeah, and we talked about it already, but I think it is a unique and interesting dynamic between having two writers, right? So you have having the notes of like how you came about that, I think is pretty cool. So I would say I really enjoyed it. Do you want to say something, Chris?
I was gonna say, if we're kind of before we wrap up everything, I had something I wanted to jump in with.
Oh yeah.
So another series you guys do that I really, really loved is Frankenstein the Unconquered.
Yes.
And I know you guys, you're the artist. Is Elizabeth doing the art on that?
Elizabeth Menetsky is the series artist. She's working on issues 3 and 4 as we speak.
So I know she had some issues, had an injury of some sort. Have you guys had any update on what's going on with that, in case anyone out there is listening that is also a fan of it? And
last we heard from her, she was about to get the okay from her doctor. She's just been like making sure she's not going to cause worse damage by working with it. She said she's feeling really creatively starved and can't wait to work on it. And as soon as she gets the okay, she's going to be sketching out thumbnails for it. So
great.
I don't know. Given that she lives in Georgia, not the state, the country, we don't have like a constant line of communication. It usually takes a day or two to hear back. But as soon as we have like affirmative progress on that, we're going to let everyone know. We're going to show off some thumbnails and get moving forward.
Great. That's awesome.
I'll say that I remember when you guys were putting out the news of that through your updates, and I was bummed on a human level. Like,
it really, and especially the timing of it sucked, because it was like we the week that we funded was when it happened. Yeah. So it was like all this momentum has to just shut down. I'm sorry, everybody. It's been unfortunate timing, but we have a pretty understanding readership. And like I said, we're excited to be moving forward with it. We really want to be able to get those issues out there and do issue 5 before the end of the year, and maybe even, fingers crossed, a trade. That would be really nice, but we'll see how much time we have for 2024.
Yeah. And how much of a damper does that put in your plans for 2024? Like you mentioned that people come back for the next campaign, so I'm assuming you guys are doing more of something. Sure. Was the plan to go back and forth and do another Frankenstein originally, but now we have to kind of figure something else out?
We have other stuff in the works. So as much as we would have liked to jump straight back into Frankenstein, we do have something that's we're ready to sub out, and hopefully we can get Frankenstein in the next one.
Cool.
But yeah, that'll just depend on how quickly we can get everything wrapped up. It hasn't been too much of a damper, but obviously it means that it just takes a little bit more planning ahead, and we have to roll with the punches a little bit more.
Yeah, understood.
Kickstarter in general, if you're wondering, like, if you've never run a Kickstarter, you're just kind of vaguely aware of it. Generally, anything that's on Kickstarter right now was planned for like 3 to 6 months ago, maybe longer.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to pump out one of these campaigns, and it's not as easy as just calling everyone up and being like, hey, do you want to do an issue 6? Let's go. All right.
Yeah. Right.
I know a few. I mean, obviously, we know a bunch of people in that space now, but I know a few that do like anywhere from 5 to 12 Kickstarters a year, and they have like spreadsheets of
You
this
have
is the
to.
next 6 months or 8 months.
You will go absolutely insane trying to keep it all in your head. You have to write it down. And we would love to be in a space where we can do more. We're definitely working up toward that. We're not at 12 a year yet.
It's quite a few.
Maybe, hopefully, one day. Who knows? But even if it's just like 4 or 5 campaigns a year that are really high quality that people are really excited for, we would be happy to do that. We would obviously love to be able to produce, multiple issues a year and keep people from having to wait, but that depends largely on how popular it is and how big audience I guess hunger for it is, enthusiasm for the projects are. Because we would love to be done with MechaTon. We would love to be on issue 11, the grand finale of MechaTon right now. Unfortunately, we have to work day jobs and we have to plan very far in advance for our Kickstarters, and that's just a slow process in general. So the more attention the book gets, the faster we can produce it, because we won't have to work day jobs anymore.
So everybody hit that Kickstarter right now and pledge.
Exactly.
And you set me up for my final question before we let you go today. Your plan for MechaTon. So there are additional issues and maybe a stopping point after a certain point.
So we have it. We don't. I never like to plan too far in advance. But we do our rough, kind of outline where we want the series to end up is currently 11 issues long. So these 5 plus the next arc would be 3 issues of 32 pages, and then another 3 issues of 32 pages. Anything can happen. That plan is flexible, but that's where we see it right now. There's a definite end for like the story as we know it, but I think there is, if MechaTon were to get really popular, if people wanted more of that story, there's definitely room to expand. I always joke there's a there's a version of MechaTon that's extremely monster of the week and episodic and doesn't have as much of an overarching plot. And if we could ever get to that point, that would be super fun to make. I would die happy if I could make just an issue of that a month forever. But yeah, for sure we want to tell these 3 arcs that were really that we sort of went into it knowing what we wanted to do. And then once we get to that point, we decide what MechaTon looks like in the future, whether it's done or whether it has a new kind of life to live.
Cool.
That reminds me of Kirkman talking about Walking Dead, and I think it was supposed to end at issue 100, but it was just like, I don't know, it's really popular, guys.
Probably should have ended
so they just like extended out where it was supposed to end.
And I don't want to confuse it with like, not to say that The Walking Dead got bloated or anything, but I don't want to confuse it with like, we'll just be willing to pad out and bloat.
Right.
It's gonna end where it ends, and then if there's like a shelf life beyond that, then we'll take advantage of it. But like, you're not going to be waiting for the final battle for 100+ issues.
Okay. All right.
I've never believed in padding my stories. To my own detriment.
It's a little harder to do the zombie of the week with that storyline as well. So I don't know.
And that had a definitive ending.
As
opposed to, I mean, I know you have an ending for the story, but like there could be another story after that for you. Like,
and that's
potentially.
And I wanted to say that about the first 5 issues was like, there was that overarching plot, but I like reading each issue, I did kind of get excited for like, this could be a monster mech of the week or something like that, which is cool.
And originally originally I think we did try and structure it where every issue was a new mech and a new monster, so there was just like something, everything was a little bit more episodic, but we realized that it flowed a lot better and you cared a lot more about the characters in the story if it was a little bit looser. We still try and like hit nice set pieces and show off unique things that the glove can do. But you know, some of the mechs are like jokes essentially.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which just I think adds to the flavor and the charm of the book. But we didn't want, you know, once it became obvious, like really through writing issue 2, like, oh, we're not going to be able to fit into this entire Thoraxis house fight in one issue.
Right.
Yeah, it became, we were just like, okay, well, we have to abandon the idea of like doing it super episodic, at least for right now. Maybe in the future we can make it a little bit more one big fight per issue or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, for this first arc and the arcs that to follow, we have like an overarching story in mind, and we're focused on telling that more than trying to just pump out like trying to pump out a monster of the week essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say new dumb ideas from X, but who are we kidding? We're always pushing new dumb ideas from X.
I wanted to say, and I don't know if you can answer this on air, we could talk after, but can you confirm if we get to see the gauntlet get off of Earth, like maybe see it used on a different planet or in a different other than Earth, or no?
My lips are tied.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
The answer is spectacular, but I can't tell you what it is.
Because reading it, I'm like, man, these things are really cool, like the hot dog car in the house. But I'm like, I really want to know what crazy shit's on other planets.
Yeah, let me.
See, the truth is,
you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
The truth is that we learned that the Earth is hollow.
Oh yeah.
Inside, and then the MechaTon is what actually makes it. It implodes inside, and that's what gives us a flat Earth, bringing us to today's reality.
I don't like that ending, Chris.
You guys aren't flat earthers? I'm sorry. I'll leave.
Yeah, come on. That's an abrupt way to end it, too, though. Again, Wells, hey, thanks for being here today. We want to push everybody to the Kickstarter. It's happening right now, a couple weeks left, so go back the project. Chris and I are big fans of it. If our listeners and our viewers want to follow you and the cool stuff you're doing, where do you want to send them as far as social media and stuff?
Absolutely. For as long as it exists and continues to be barely functional, I'm on Twitter at Wells Thomp, which is my name minus the last 3 letters. Same with Blue Sky. The most reliable way to get updates is through my Substack, through my newsletter on Substack called Comics, Cats, and Cocktails. And you can find a link to that on my website, wellsthompson.com. There you can also find links to MechaTon, Frankenstein, The Catskin and the Rose, and all the other stuff that I've worked on. Cool. You can potentially pick up a copy of there.
Great.
And as always, everybody, there will be all those links in the show notes down below. So you can go down there, click on them, find out all the things that Wells and Dalton are doing together. And all that. So, Wells, thank you so much for taking the time today to come chat with us. And best of luck with the campaign, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.